Title: White cops arrest black woman, unaware she's the judge presiding over their case. The morning sun spilled through the blinds as Judge Maya Henderson wrapped her long braids into a neat bun. Her courtroom robe hung on the door, its weight a quiet reminder of the responsibility she carried. A daughter of civil rights activists, Maya had grown up believing justice wasn't just about laws, it was about people. She had presided over some of the city's most tense cases, always guided by one unshakable truth: dignity must be granted before it is demanded. That day, Maya decided to leave early and stop by her local community center. A youth mentor on weekends, she often said the court gave consequences, but the community gave chances. Wearing jeans, a hoodie, and no makeup, she stepped into the brisk air, looking like any other citizen. Her plan was simple: check on the kids, grab coffee, and head to court. But plans rarely ask for permission before they fall apart. She had just pulled out of the community center parking lot when flashing lights appeared in her rearview mirror. Two white officers approached, hands already resting on their holsters. License and registration, the taller one snapped. Maya complied calmly. May I ask what I'm being stopped for, officer? No questions. Step out of the vehicle. Her heart pounded, but she kept her voice steady. I'd like to understand the reason. Out. Now. One officer yanked open the door while the other called in backup, mumbling something about a suspected vehicle theft. Maya barely had time to explain before cold metal kissed her wrists. People on the sidewalk paused, watching as the elegant black woman was pressed against her own car, the hood of her sweatshirt shadowing her face. You're making a mistake, she said, her voice soft but sure. That's what they all say, the shorter cop muttered. At the station, she was fingerprinted, photographed, and made to wait in a holding cell. No one had checked her ID. No one listened when she told them her name. The irony clung to her like sweat. Today's docket included a police misconduct case. The defendants? Officers Brent Walker and John Reese. An hour later, a junior officer finally read her file. The color drained from his face. The chief was called. Apologies tumbled like dominoes, but the damage was done. Judge Henderson, the chief stammered, we didn't realize. If we had known. She looked him in the eye. Would you have treated me differently if I weren't a judge? Silence. Back in her chambers, Maya sat quietly, robe over her clothes, dignity draped heavier than ever. News hadn't reached the press, yet. Court was in 10 minutes. She took a deep breath. She had a choice to make. At 10 a.m., the courtroom doors opened. The same two officers entered, dressed in suits, clearly tense. They glanced at the bench, and froze. Their expressions shifted from confusion to horror as they recognized her. All rise, the bailiff announced. Maya stepped up to the bench. Court is now in session. The officers looked at the floor. Every pair of eyes in the room followed her every word, sensing a storm beneath her calm. The proceedings began. The officers were being sued by a black teenager they had wrongfully detained at gunpoint. Evidence showed clear bias and excessive force. The boy's mother wept softly in the back row. As witnesses spoke, Maya listened, her face unreadable. When it was time for the defense, the officer's lawyer spoke of protocol, fear, and the chaos of field decisions. Words Maya had heard 1,000 times. Then, before closing arguments, she asked both officers to stand. Mr. Walker. Mr. Reese. Do you recognize me? They nodded, ashamed. You arrested me this morning outside a community center, she said, her voice firm but not raised. You assumed I stole my own car. You assumed I was a criminal because of how I looked. You didn't ask. You didn't listen. And you didn't care. The courtroom was still. Even the air seemed to pause. She continued. Now imagine if I hadn't been a judge. Imagine if I hadn't been educated or composed. Imagine if I had flinched. Would I be alive to sit on this bench? Walker's lips trembled. Reese looked like he might be sick. Then came the moment that changed everything. Maya turned to the boy who had filed the suit. "Marcus, come here." The boy hesitated, then approached. Maya stood and stepped down from the bench. Standing beside him, she looked at the officers. "Marcus is 16. He could be my son. He could be your son. But he's not. So you saw a threat instead of a child. I want you to see him now. And I want you to hear something." She looked at Marcus. "What do you dream of?" He swallowed hard. "I want to be an EMT." "Why?" "Because my sister has seizures. I want to help people like her." Maya turned back to the officers. "There is your threat." The silence cracked into sniffles across the room. Then Maya did something unexpected. "Today's verdict will follow the law. But I also ask this, that you, Officers Walker and Reese, spend 6 weeks volunteering in this community center. That you work side by side with the people you swore to protect. Because real justice doesn't end in this courtroom, it begins with understanding." The boy's mother cried. The officers, stunned, nodded slowly. The verdict was fair, and the damages were awarded. But what people remembered, what the newspapers later wrote about, was the day a judge turned a courtroom into a classroom. The day justice didn't just punish, but transformed. Outside, Maya walked into the sunshine, now with Marcus by her side. Reporters shouted questions, but she just smiled. "Sometimes," she said, "the law teaches us what we should do. But compassion teaches us who we should be." And in a world so often divided by fear, race, and rage, Maya's story became a lighthouse. Reminding everyone that grace is the most powerful form of justice, and that one act of humanity can rewrite 1,000 assumptions.